Back from Once Upon a Time. This is episode 22 of season 4, the finale of the season, which is insane. Quite the journey getting to this point, given it feels like it's been ages. It also feels like there's been no time at all. Because obviously there's two very distinct halves to this season. You know, there's the Snow Queen kind of arc, and then there's been this other Queens of Darkness arc, although I think it stopped being the Queens of Darkness about halfway through, I would say. But yeah, and when we started this season, there wasn't a global pandemic, so it's been quite the journey getting through this, and yeah, it's been a lot. But I'm excited to see where they're going to go with this ending for this season and setting up next season, I assume, as well, and where this is going with this current story of this rewritten world that Isaac came up with, and put all these people in different situations. So it's kind of cool seeing the characters messed about like that, and I imagine we're going to come to some sort of conclusion in this one, and they're going to undo it. And yeah, exactly how or where they're going to go with the consequences of all this, I don't know. But I'm excited to finish off yet another season, and then we'll be 4 down, 3 to go. So we are getting through the show. Yeah, I've really enjoyed the season so far, and I'm excited to see how they're going to end things off and set up next season as well, I assume. But either way, I just hope we have a really great end to the season. So let's get into it. Is it Sir Rumpelstiltskin? Oh, damn. Okay.
He died because of you. Liar!
Yeah, this isn't probably the best way of going about convincing him. Telling him how bad he is.
But deep down,
you're a captain. Can't you take your ship wherever you want?
I don't think he's the captain in this life.
A captain? Is that who he says he is?
I knew it was going to be this fucker.
I told you to...
Then I'll have to help you.
Oh, damn. Oh! Wow.
What the hell are you doing? Getting you your ship back.
Go, Henry.
Come on.
Yes.
Let's dump Blackbeard and go.
How do you know how to sail a ship?
I had a great teacher. You.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's cool. Oh. Nice.
My name is...
She knows.
I've got a wedding to stop.
I mean, Hookie's a mood.
Her name is Lily.
Oh, okay.
It's dangerous.
Oh, they have a dragon guard in the tower. It's like Shrek! She should just be a dragon all the time. It's probably a better guard, isn't it? Aha!
It's goat's milk.
Where's your rum?
Oh.
I'm allergic. Never touch this stuff.
Oh.
So you're not mad?
Of course not.
I think she's mad. I mean, is she that surprised she's failing? I mean, her team is 7 dwarfs and an old lady. I mean... Oh dear. 6 dwarfs and an old lady.
Down to 6.
Is that good?
Emma, that is a look. Wow.
Tell me more about
Damn, she likes handling his sword, doesn't she?
Safe, Henry.
Killian, you can't beat them.
If I can help return things to how they were meant to be, then what happens to me here won't matter, will it? And go. Send
Oh
him
man.
What about you, Your Majesty? Shall I make quick work?
Oh Jesus, why would you turn your back? Well, I mean, you two should have started running ages ago, but... Could have gone better.
Things never seem quite as bleak after a cup of tea.
Is it gonna be chipped?
See? It's just chipped.
Yeah.
I know what my art says. But what if his doesn't say the same thing?
It does.
What kind of risk you're willing to take?
Glad I crashed a wedding.
I just watched the man I love.
Better than forgetting. Yeah, that was awkward.
I'm sorry, that's horrible. The worst part is that I never told him I loved him.
I like that Regina doesn't understand seeing someone she loves die in this reality.
I'm afraid none of you are crashing this wedding.
Oh boy. He's just always meant to be evil.
I do.
See, I feel bad because I feel like this Zelina's actually nice, but she's also Zelina. Well, that's just cheating, isn't it? Come on. If you say I do now, you're a little...
Go! You have to stop that wedding!
Ah! Ah, shit! I knew she was going to go back and save him instead.
I couldn't let you die.
Oh, shit.
What's going on? Oh,
Get your dress out of her
my
face.
dress.
You see, she's injured.
This is supposed to be my day.
Okay, she's still a bitch in here. It's okay. Mm-hmm.
Too late.
Oh, piss off. Yeah! Oh, rewrite it.
You're gonna change things. Save Regina.
Can Henry do it?
Whoa, kid, what the hell?
Oh my god. Yeah, fuck you, mate. You're fired.
He's the next author.
Yes! Oh my god, that's great.
And in this world, we don't need a dark savior. We need a light one.
Ah.
Now don't!
Henry, do it!
Sorry about that, but...
Thanks to the hero Regina's sacrifice, Isaac's villainous work was undone.
Yes! I love that he's the author, that's so cool. And Isaac fell in a ditch. Because he's a worm. Aww. This guy's like, what the hell? Tell that man you love him. Whoa, I mean the parents are still there.
I was afraid I was never gonna get a chance to tell you something.
Tell me what?
Tell me why.
I want to thank you for sacrificing yourself.
Come on, Emma, you can do it.
Henry and I...
Meanwhile... oh boy. Yeah, you're not going anywhere, weasel.
It's all gone.
Shame.
My life.
Shame.
It was my turn to win.
How did that work out?
To be the hero.
How did that work out?
I know what it is to feel your heart go dark. And that... it isn't something to idolize. It's something to pity.
Maybe I could use it just one more time. To bring back my dad.
Aww.
The truth is what you must write. I hope that you can resist the temptation of the quill.
What if he goes dark?
To change reality.
I don't know if I could cope with that. Yeah, he's gonna break it. It's like the Elder Wand.
Everything we had in the book, you could have had here. You could have been a good man with a good marriage, for real.
I didn't believe it. Who could ever love me?
I knew what I was getting, Rumble.
Oh, that's
I
actually
wasn't
quite
going
sad.
to hold back.
But you were also a dick.
I don't love Will. And I am not letting you die.
Poor Will. Where there's a will, there isn't a way. Whoops. And I can't say I feel too bad for him. He brought it on himself. Yeah!
So, that's something we'll be able to deal with.
Together. So, Will is looking after Roland.
We are sorry.
Well, you don't need to be sorry. Although I do intend to hold it over your heads for a very...
I think we both... It's also the only clue I have as to who my father is. Have you asked your mother? She doesn't know either. What? It's a dragon thing. You know, it happens happened in dragon form.
Oh,
Do you want to find him?
I don't think we're getting that flashback.
He's a brain danger.
I kind of want to see, like, pure Dark One.
Tried to use the hat to free himself.
Big Dark One energy. Oh. No.
His return to the man he used to be will not be easy.
Damn.
Preserve him.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Looks like Venom.
The sorcerer is the only one with the power to destroy the darkness once and for all. His name is Merlin.
Ah. Makes sense.
Stop the darkness.
I smell season 5.
Find Merlin.
Man, he had a rough time. Trapped in a hat for ages and dies.
Where is it?
Shit! Shit! Shit!
You work too hard, Dad. Your happiness destroyed.
She's gonna do it.
Need to do it again. These heroes.
Aww.
I love you.
Shit. Is he gonna say Emma? Ah, that's... Oh boy. Okay, well, that's season 4. Really great season overall. I really have enjoyed basically everything they were going for this season. You know, some storylines I was like, oh, do they have to do this? And I think there were some questionable decisions and stuff like that, and particularly at the start of the season with the whole Frozen characters, that took a bit of getting used to, but they won me over in the end. But overall, I really enjoyed this season, and this was, I think, a very, very solid ending to it. And when I thought, you know, I thought, oh, they might set up season 5 a bit. My goodness, did they set up season 5? A lot more than I thought they would. I mean, they dedicated like the last 15 minutes of the episode, I'd say, to kind of just setting up the next season. So in terms of like the pacing and stuff of it, it did feel a bit disjointed in that sense, because they very much had the whole stuff set in this other timeline, this alternate universe, and then boom, set up. But I don't think there was really any other way they could have done it. But you know, I don't think that really didn't hinder the episode too much. It was very disjointed, but that's kind of the only way they could do it, I suppose. When you've had this alternate reality thing going on, it's going to be a bit jarring to suddenly spend the last like quarter of an hour back in the main timeline. And it's just because like every scene after the other was just tying up a different plot end, you know? They kind of had, oh, Emma's really making amends with her parents now, and then, oh, it's her and Lily need to be doing a bit of setup. Then Robin and Regina need a bit of setup, and the Golden Bell need a bit of setup, and the mention of Zelena needs a bit of setup, and then the Dark One thing happened. So there was a lot of that kind of rounding off things. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was just, you know, just the way it kind of had to be, I guess, with how they wanted to take the direction of the show next season, which I'm very excited for. So Emma's the Dark One now. I kind of assumed that was going to happen. I thought that was kind of inevitable. And I'm very excited to see exactly what that's going to entail and how long it will last for as well. If the show continues to do like split in 2 chunks, I feel like Emma might be the Dark One for like the first half of the season, and then when the second arc of the season starts, if they still do that with season 5, I think maybe by then it would change back and they do something else. I have no idea for sure, but there's a lot with that they can do. Zelena's still around and she's still pregnant with Robin's kid. And I think there's going to be a big quest to find Merlin as well, which should be kind of interesting. If that's a way of them bringing more kind of, you know, King Arthurian kind of lore into the show, I'd be all for it, because I love that stuff. I really love like the King Arthur Knights of the Round Table kind of stories. And I think we've gotten Lancelot in the past, so they're not like, it's not completely out of the blue for them to do something like that. So if they do, I'd be over the bloody moon. So we'll see. That's an interesting kind of thing potentially for season 5, and it makes sense that this big sorcerer is actually Merlin. So I'm excited to meet him. I assume we'll meet him at some point, and see where all that kind of goes. But that's going to be really fascinating, and I think Gold kind of being restored to the man he used to be before he became the Dark One as well. So is he going to be kind of like a cowardly Rumpelstiltskin? Again, that's another interesting idea for them to play with next season. I hope they don't make him evil again. Now I feel like that should be it, and that's the end of kind of evil Gold, I guess. You can still have Rumpelstiltskin be evil, but I think if they were to make him bad again, I think that'd be a bit too far and a bit too repetitive. So I hope they don't do that, and I think this is like a good fresh start for hopefully a really nice redemption arc for him or something. Otherwise, I do think it would get to a point where you're like, well, if you're just doing this again, maybe the character's had its day. I don't want that to be the case, because I do think Robert Carlyle is one of the best actors in the show, and I don't think we should get rid of him. So I'm very intrigued to see where they're going to go with that. And yeah, lots of interesting stuff for next season. It would have been nice to see like a proper like Maleficent appearance. I feel like, given how big of a thing they made Lily earlier in the season, like the whole her being taken when she was a baby and everything they did with that, I feel like they didn't do enough with it in the end. Particularly like the finale and stuff. I know they focused on the alternate universe thing, but I don't know, that kind of fell a bit flat for me in the end, because they just didn't really explore it in the way they should have done. And even if they do explore it more in season 5, it would feel a bit too late. They should have done it in this season, because they made such a big deal of it, and then suddenly it seemed they just favoured some other storylines, and that happens, I guess. It's hard to balance, but that was kind of a shame that she was like a knight in this alternate universe. Then she was like, well, still don't know who my dad is, no resolution to that. Guess we'll find out next season, potentially, if they do. But we didn't even see Maleficent in this episode, and I just feel like maybe at least have her be in there and see her hanging out with Lily to see that they are working on their relationship and stuff, but they just didn't show it. Lily got like a minute of screen time, and after the build-up, I feel like they probably should have done a bit more. And again, they might do it in season 5, but it might feel a bit too late, given it was such a big part of season 4 and they didn't wrap it up there. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Nonetheless, it was cool to see a few other characters in like this alternate verse. We finally saw Hook, and the fact that he was quite timid and didn't believe in himself. But then he kind of bumped into Emma and Henry, and he's like willing to help out there, and he kind of naturally became that hero, and that instinct was still in him. I really liked that. And him getting run through wasn't as pleasant, granted, but I like seeing him, and we saw Lily very briefly in that. Blackbeard showed up again. They love having Blackbeard show up. So that was kind of a fun little thing for them to do as well. And yeah, the whole Robin Zelina wedding, Isaac. What a little toad, Isaac. I'm glad he seems to have kind of got his comeuppance. I liked the scene with him charming Snow, or Mary Margaret and David, I probably should say. And as another thing, I feel like they should have done a bit more with evil Snow White. It barely touched that in this episode. I think that's a really good concept that you probably can't repeat now. And yeah, maybe if this episode had been an hour, they probably would have had a lot more time to do everything that I would have wanted from the episode. Because there wasn't really a lot of it, but it is what it is. And what we did get was kind of interesting. I like her killing one of the dwarves. That was kind of a very interesting image to see Snow White doing that. And yeah, I did like the scene where Mary Margaret was kind of talking to Isaac about, that bit of darkness and the fact that he became a villain, trying to get his own happy ending, and very a fitting kind of end to that particular arc, I think, with Isaac. And I assume they just locked him up somewhere. Maybe he's like roomies with Zelina. That'd be hilarious if like Zelina just like her waters break and she's just sharing a set with Isaac. He's just there like, what the hell do I do? That'd be hilarious, but they're probably not going to go in that direction, because that would probably be a bit too silly. But it's once upon a time. It's fairy tales. Anything can happen. But yeah, overall, I did like seeing Isaac kind of get his comeuppance, I guess, and to see where that all wrapped up with him. And I don't know if we're going to see him again, We may not, because obviously he kind of had to give up being the author to give himself this whole world. And then Henry became the author, which I love. That might be one of my favourite things about this finale, was Henry becoming the next author. For some reason, it just makes so much sense. It just really sits right with me that Henry would be the next author, because he's obviously had this big imagination. He's such a big believer in these stories. He always was right from the start. So the fact that he kind of had a bit of ownership over them in the end, I loved. So it was cool that he kind of got that. He could use Regina's blood to change things, and then he gave up the power. Kind of sad that he gave it up, but I can understand he just seen how corrupting that influence could be with Isaac. He had to kind of live through that. So I understand his decision to be like, nah, too much power for anyone to have. Snap. But I did like that for a very brief period, Henry became the author, and I like that he really did dominate this kind of finale, because the season hadn't focused on him that much overall. So it was really cool to see him front and centre for a lot of that. And yeah, I thought that was really well done in the end, and I'm very happy with how they kind of used Henry in the finale. And him becoming the author was really cool. And yeah, seeing Gold have his happy ending kind of threatened in this other reality, and he was still with Belle and everything, and they had their own kid. The fact that then that was threatened and he kind of had to turn a bit villainous again, almost like that was always within him, was an interesting idea. Like, especially considering how the episode kind of ends, and he seems to have almost been cleansed of that potentially. So we'll see where that goes. I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with Gold next season and what his role could be. Poor Will Scarlet, basically. Belle doesn't love him. He was there, I think, at Robin and Zelina's wedding in the other alternate universe thing. They didn't really do much with him this season, considering he was like a main cast member, which was odd. But maybe they'll give him more to do next season, I don't know. And nonetheless, that was kind of interesting. And the fact that they didn't actually stop the wedding properly, and Regina had that instinct about Henry, I loved that. And she was this proper hero in the other reality, and that helped kind of fix things. Isaac basically played himself, which was cool. Liked everything with that, and just getting a glimpse at that alternate world. There's some interesting kind of set pieces and stuff like that. I liked the kind of whole dragon set piece with Lily chasing them. I thought the CGI of that dragon actually looked really, really good. Obviously, we didn't see much of it, and that sequence was quite short because of budgets and stuff. But I always appreciate that Once Upon a Time at least tries to do big sequences like that. And most of the time, I think it does work pretty well. So I liked that. Zelina turning out to still be a bit of a bitch in the other reality was a moment most pleasing in my career, because they could just ruin it. Then she turned a bit green again, like that. And again, there's obviously going to be a lot more to her story next season that I'm intrigued by. And yeah, I think that's my big thing with like the back half of this season. They had a big deal of Zelina coming back, then they didn't do a hell of a lot with it. And then, they made this big deal of Lily actually being Maleficent's daughter. They didn't do a hell of a lot with it. I think it was just like very crowded storyline wise. I think this season they didn't quite explore everything I feel like they could have done. I mean, I love the idea of Gold teaming up with like the Queens of Darkness, and even that, nothing really came of it. In that sense, I get, Emma like killing Cruella and stuff, her potential for darkness, but that wasn't like one of the big reasons. She still just willingly became the Dark One. It wasn't like she just turned evil, and I think that would have been infinitely more interesting. So ultimately, they didn't really have much of an impact for me on the story, her killing Cruella, especially because they basically forgot about it after that anyway. And, they got rid of Ursula very early on in the arc, and we didn't even have Maleficent in, like, this last episode. I didn't even know she was in the first half of this story either, but there was just a few big things, and they made such a big deal of some elements in this second half that they just didn't see through, or didn't do, I think, justice to the setup, which is kind of a shame. But I think even with the end of this season, I think it's still true what I've been saying throughout this second half. I think the individual episodes of this second half have been a lot better than the first half, but the first half's plot and structure was infinitely better for me. I feel like the second half of the season, plot-wise, character-wise, was a bit all over the place and a bit of a mess. And I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not, because I saw a lot of people in the comments really excited for me to get to this arc, because this was like their favourite arc. I don't know if I'd go that far for me, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this season as a whole. I still think season 3 is my favourite, But yeah, I think this back half, there was just a lot, they just put too much into it, and I think there's a bit too much potential for some really good stories, and they just did not have the time to make all these stories the best they can be. So I think it's more kind of lost potential as opposed to like it being bad. You know, it wasn't bad by any means. And like I said, you know, the episodes in the second half I think were superior for the most part to some episodes in the first half, but the structure of the first half was, I think, far superior. But yeah, some really, really interesting setup that I'm quite looking forward to for next season for sure. I will say I think I'm a lot more hyped for season 5 at the end of this season than I was for season 4 at the end of last season. You know, with Elsa showing up at the end of season 3, I was like, really, they're doing that? Which was interesting, but I wasn't like super hyped about it because I was kind of like, But I think this finale absolutely succeeded in making me quite hyped to see where they're going to go in season 5. And that, I think, means it was successful in what it was trying to do. Even if it felt a bit clunky, it's suddenly just shifting to basically setup after setup after setup for season 5. What they're setting up is very, very interesting. And they have a whole season to explore those stories that they're setting up, as opposed to the second half, where I don't think they quite had enough time to pay off everything they did set up. If that makes sense. That's just kind of how I'm feeling about it. But even so, I really, really enjoyed this arc and where they've gone with it. The setup for season 5 I thought was very, very, very interesting, and I can't wait for that. Particularly the stuff with Emma and Gold and Merlin, because the potential of like Arthurian legend and stuff is most intriguing to me. So I'm hoping they kind of go in that direction. That'd be really cool. And just to see where the story's going to go next. You know, we have the 100th episode next season, which I'm excited to get to. A lot of shows make a big fuss over their 100th episode and do something special, so I wonder if Once Upon a Time falls into that. Obviously, don't tell me if they do. But it'd be nice to get to a big landmark like that, just to celebrate me reacting to the show for like 2 and a bit years now. You know, it has been well over 2 years. So, yeah. 2 years and 4 seasons down, 3 to go. Have to see. This time next year we might be done with the show, maybe getting quite close. I feel like I want to finish the show next year for sure. Obviously we'll get through a bit of season 5 before the end of this year anyway. We'll probably get a decent chunk through it. So it'll be like 2.5 seasons to get through next year. I feel like we'll probably get there because like long run shows I have already will be ending by then. So we might be able to focus a bit more Once Upon a Time and get through it a bit quicker. Although I'm still happy with the pace we're going with it. But either way, I really, really enjoyed this finale. Thought it was a really cool setup for next season. Some really nice emotional moments there. Some good performances. I liked the resolution to Isaac's arc for sure. And yeah, intrigued to see where we're going to take all this next. And again, I think just my big takeaway from the second half is that I think they just they threw too many stories in there and didn't have the time to make them all live up to their full potential, which is a shame. But what can you do? It's not like they've made anything like bad or had any bad episodes. And I also feel very, very, very bad for the poor apprentice guy. They put him through a lot this season and then he just dies. Poor guy. But still, really, really great finale to a really good season. I'm so excited to see where they're going to take things next. I hope you guys are too. Thank you for following my reactions to season 4. We've been through a lot getting through this season. Pandemics, all sorts. And yeah, I'm very excited to see where the story goes next in season 5. And I hope you are too. So yeah, that's going to be it for now. And until season 5, thanks for watching.